Hello, all my students. Good morning and welcome to my class. Once again, after a short break, I'm resuming today with all my educational videos, and this will contain, as you all know, all these biology chapters, topics from these biology chapters of the school students of the higher classes mostly. So, I also wish the very best for all the students who are preparing for the board exams, class 10 students, especially CBSE as well as ICSE. And I am sure that they will score good marks as they all prepared very hard. So, with that, I am starting this topic which is very well known, very popular, that is cell. So, all of you are hearing this word right from your early classes of 5, 6, and everywhere you have studied cell, cell, cell. Everywhere there is a cell. It is true. Everywhere there is cell. So every body, every substance is made of cell. So that is why you have to study in every book, in every class, cell is there. Even up to class 12 or in further studies also, you have to keep on studying about cell because this is the main component of living beings. Without cell, nothing can happen. So, who saw the cell for the first time? It was Robert Hooke. In his under his microscope, he saw the small compartments, the small rooms on the body of the cork, which was taken from the stem of the plant. These were dead cells, but he named the word cells. He named these compartments cells for the first time. But about the living cells, Leeuwenhoek was the another scientist who studied, and he studied the red blood corpuscles for the first time, RBC, in the living cells. Further studies were made, and there were other scientists like Robert Brown who discovered the nucleus, and then Camillo Golgi. He found the Golgi bodies, which are the important organelles of the cells. So organelles are the parts of the cells which having specific function. Those are the organelles. So their studies were made, and then two German scientists, Schildin and Schwann, they framed the cell theory. First of all, they said that the cells are the basic unit of structural unit of all living beings because all the body parts are made up of cells. Hand, legs, for example, in human, your head, face, your stomach, everything is made up of cells. Reproductive cells are there separately. So that is why it is making the structure of the body of the living being. So it is the structure unit. And then all these life processes are taking place in the cell. Your respiration, cellular respiration, your digestion, your excretory cells are there, your reproductive cells are there. So all these functions are there. Cells are dividing, so growth is taking place. So these are the function unit also of all living beings. Is clear? But Virchow was a scientist who said that okay, I agree or we agree that these are the cells are the basic unit of life, basic structural unit as well as function unit. But the question is from where they have come, and he worked on this and found out that cells arise from pre-existing cells only. The cell is dividing, so new cells are being formed. So that is why how he studied and developed this point. And the cell theory contained 3 points. One is cell is the structural unit of all living beings. The main 3 points, and number 2, cell is the functional unit of all living beings, and third, all cells arise from pre-existing cells. So this is about the cell theory, student. You have to just remember, recapitulate. And now these size and shape, different functions, different size, different shape. If the smallest cell in the body, RBC, what it is doing mainly, it is carrying oxygen to all parts of the body and also taking back carbon dioxide from all parts of the body to the lungs. Right? Containing hemoglobin, the respiratory pigment, that is how it is doing this. So it is having no other organelle. Even nucleus is not there. So RBC is the smallest cell, because the smaller it is, surface area will be more and more oxygen will be contained. So that is why the purpose of being small and not having any other organelle is because it can supply oxygen sufficiently and efficiently, and also take back carbon dioxide from the cells and tissues. So this is the function of RBC, so it is so small. And now the longest cell is the neuron, because what it is doing, it is transmitting messages from one part of the body to even to the remotest part of the body. These neurons are transmitting impulses and messages, so they are very long cells as compared to others. WBC, it has to be, it is to have an irregular shape, it has to combat or fight with the foreign body, it has to, extend its pseudopodial-like structure, finger-like projections. So it has to be amoeboid, so it is looking like amoeba. Now the other cells, the guard cells, which is regulating the opening and closing of stomata, which are so important for gases exchange in the plants. So they are being shaped. The muscle cells are long because they are constituting the muscles of the body, so important for movements of the body. So these are the muscle cells, and involuntary muscle cells are tapering at the both ends, but all the muscle cells are long. Now the bundle cells, the vascular bundle cells, which are the conducting tissues, in fact they are in bundles and they are all long tube-like structures. They are actually the distribution channels. They are conducting water and minerals from the soil to the aerial parts of the plant, so they have to contain tube-like structures. So main tube in the xylem is the trachea and xylem vessels, and in the phloem it is, what phloem is doing? It is distributing the food to all parts of the plant. So the main conducting tube-like tissue which is there in the phloem is the sieve tube. So like this, the shape and size vary as per their functions. Now coming to an individual cell, what is required? You just go step by step logically and you will be able to remember all these parts, organelles of the cell. There has to be a covering, there has to be a layer which will protect the inner part of the cell and will not allow the inner part of the cell, the other organelles to come out, and that is the cell membrane. Cell membrane is made of some important substances which are there. They are the lipoprotein, lipid and protein. Cell membrane is semi-permeable, which is very important. All the substances cannot go inside, all the substances cannot come outside or go out of the cell. So this is the semi-permeability of the cell membrane, which is so important. So how substances are going inside the cell? By which processes? Mainly diffusion and osmosis. By diffusion, what is happening? The solute, solvent, or gas is moving inside the cell from their higher concentration to their lower concentration. That is diffusion. And if it is water, it is moving from its higher concentration to lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. This is the only difference between diffusion and osmosis. You have to remember that osmosis is also diffusion, but in presence of a semi-permeable membrane. So this is, the salient features, the important features of cell membrane. It is containing lipid as well as fat as well as protein in its structure. So this is the cell membrane, and then in plant cell there is another layer which is cell wall, which is which is freely permeable, but it is very hard and rough, so rough and tough. So it protects the entire cell, and it also resists the turgor pressure. So it is very, very important. The water is entering the cell, so the turgor pressure is increasing. So this cell wall is also protecting the cell, and it is resisting the turgor pressure. So, which is very important. So cell wall is bearing the wall pressure. So that is why it is very, very tough. So this is about the outer coverings of the cell. When you go inside, there has to be a substance. Otherwise, where the other organelles will remain, will be there. So this substance is actually the living matter. Earlier, what happened? Did anybody see life? No, nobody saw any kind of anything which is life. So, how life started? So scientists, after long research, it was found that protoplasm is a substance which is having life because it is having all the properties of living beings. It can digest, it can respire, it can help in reproductive processes, it can grow, it can move. Locomotion is also there in protoplasm, and your movement is there. It is also responding to some stimulus. So that is why it was believed that this is the substance which is having life, and the cytoplasm inside the cell is nothing but protoplasm. Protoplasm inside the cell, from the cell membrane to the nucleus, is cytoplasm. Inside the nucleus, the same protoplasm is nucleoplasm. So the chemical reactions, the cellular respiration, where it will happen, there has to be some place. All the important biochemical reactions, where it will take place, it is taking place in this ground substance which is called the cytoplasm. So it is so important. The glucose which is broken down, the first step is taking place in this cytoplasm, which is called the glycolysis. It is, turned into, the glucose is turned into pyruvate first of all. Then pyruvate is converted finally, or broken down finally, into ATP, the source of energy, adenosine triphosphate. But there has to be a place where this breakdown of pyruvate can take place. There has to be a structure where the actual aerobic cellular respiration will take place. The pyruvate will be broken down to release 38 ATP. So where is the place? Where it will happen? So it happens in the mitochondria. You have to remember, students, mitochondria. which is also known as the powerhouse of the cell. Why? Because pyruvate is being broken down to release carbon dioxide, water, and 38 ATP. This mitochondria looks like a structure having two-layered membrane. The outer membrane is double layered. So the inner layer runs into folds, and this cristae is there where this conversion of or breakdown of pyruvate is taking place, which is a long process. A number of steps are there, and in each step a specific enzyme is there, and this entire process or cycle is called the Krebs cycle, by which pyruvate is broken down into carbon dioxide and water, and also releasing energy, that is 38 ATP. So that is why it is the powerhouse of the cell. This clear, students? And then these important ingredients, nutrients, your lipid or fats or proteins and your carbohydrates, how they will reach to different areas of the cell, to different parts of the cell. There has to be a distribution network. For this also, there is an organelle which is known as endoplasmic reticulum, which is a distribution network channel, right? And if proteins are, your ribosomes are there attached with the endoplasmic reticulum, it is called the rough endoplasmic reticulum. And if ribosomes are not there with this endoplasmic reticulum, then they are called the smooth ER or endoplasmic reticulum. So the RER, rough endoplasmic reticulum, is distributing mainly the protein, because ribosomes are also there which are synthesizing protein. So ribosomes are granules which are synthesizing protein. Correct? Now the smooth endoplasmic reticulum is actually distributing or carrying your lipids, fats. So this distribution channel is also very important, which is the ER or endoplasmic reticulum. Now all these ingredients, important ingredients, your fat, proteins and carbohydrates also, which are being broken down into the mitochondria, okay, but even some other important particles, molecules, they have to be assembled, they have to be packaged to form important organic compounds and substances which are helpful for all these biochemical processes. So there has to be a place for this also, to assemble and to package, and that is called the Golgi body or the Golgi apparatus, which was coined by Camillo Golgi. So Golgi bodies are doing what? They are, preparing enzymes and other secretions which are helpful in the other biochemical important processes taking place in the cell. So this is clear. Your mitochondria powerhouse of the cell, your Golgi bodies which are forming the secretion, forming the enzymes and secretions, and endoplasmic reticulum, the distribution channel in the cell, and nucleus. Nucleus is the center of the cell, is the commander of the cell. It is controlling all these other processes or other organelles in the cell. Okay, so a nucleus is also very important because it is containing the genetic material which is transmitting the characteristics from parents to the offsprings. The similar characteristics are being transmitted to the offsprings. How? Because of the DNA, which is there in the chromosomes, in the genes, and they all appear in the nucleus only when the cell is ready to divide. So, how this is how nucleus is so important. There's a prokaryote, eukaryote you have studied. So, prokaryote means the cells which do not have any kind of well-defined nucleus, that is bacteria, single-celled, unicellular. So they are not developed at all. They are very, very simple single-cell organisms and they don't have any nucleus. So only asexual reproduction can take place by the asexual methods of by binary fission mainly. So these are the important points that you have to remember when you think of the cell organelles. So this is about the powerhouse of the cell, the distribution channel of the cell, and then the packaging center of the cell, that is Golgi body, nucleus, the controller of the cell, right? And the final breakdown of pyruvate is releasing ATP, which is the energy currency of the cell, because ATP is only providing energy. Adenosine triphosphate, when it is broken down, it is providing energy. So it is the energy currency of the cell. Right. Now when we come to the difference between animal cell and plant cell, in the plant cell chloroplast is there, which is not there in animal cell, because chloroplast is containing chlorophyll in the thylakoid of the chloroplast, which are special tissues and are found on the leaves, because photosynthesis is taking place and chlorophyll is so important for photosynthesis. So this is the chloroplast, which is containing chlorophyll, the green pigment, and it is also containing there are other plastids. So chloroplast is one of them, and the chromoplast is there, which is containing coloring pigment. That's red, orange, or yellow color we see. This is because of the carotene and xanthophyll pigments which are there in the chromoplast. And leucoplasts are also there, which are in the roots, and they don't carry any pigment, but they store food only. So these are about the different plastids which are there in the plant cell, but not in the animal cell, because chlorophyll is not required there. Now big vacuoles are there in the plant cell because they are storing, cells are there, the water mineral, but the big vacuoles or sometimes most of the animal cell do not contain any vacuole. So this is also a difference. Cell wall is there in the plant cell, there is no cell wall in the animal cell, right? And these are the main difference. Vacuoles, big vacuoles are there in the plant cell, and animal cell does not contain any vacuole. And even if it is vacuoles are there, they are very small. And then centrosomes or centrioles are there in the animal cell, which help in cell division. Actually, cell division starts in animal cell from the centrioles only, which are not there in the plant cell. So these are the main differences, student, because in animal cell, the division has to start, cell division has to start from some place, but it is not in the nucleus. It is just above the nucleus, that is the centrosome, which is having a pair of centrioles. So that is the difference also between animal cell and plant cell. So these are the main differences, students, you have to remember. And some more details, if any, I will talk about them in the next video. So I am closing this video now. Thank you so much. God bless you all.